Ще започна с въпрос. Кой е първият орган, за който се сещате, ако имате проблеми с стомаха, с храносмилането, с метаболизма, с хормоните, с холестерола? Кой е този орган, който подпомага също така и кръвната захар? Това е въпросът ми към теб и се надявам да коментираш. Защото незнанието, пак казваме, това, което ни разболява. Много често дамите, когато имат хормонален дисбаланс, мислят, че имат проблем с щитовидна жлеза. И хормоните могат да бъдат завишени. Но това не означава, че вие имате проблем с щитовидната жлеза. Когато имаме повишена кръвна захар или вече отиваме към диабет, това може да не означава, че вие имате проблеми с панкреаса. Когато имате киселини, подуване и забавен метаболизъм, това не означава, че вие имате проблеми с стомаха. Всичко това сигнализира за проблем, но в един орган. И това е черният дроб. Искам да ви го представя по начин, по който аз го научих в едното от обученията на партньорите им в School of Health Великобритания. И сега искам да споделя една малка част, едно видео, в което лекторката обяснява точно къде се намира черния дроб, какви са функциите и какво се получава, когато той не функционира правилно. За да може наистина човек да обогати своите знания и когато, примерно, имате киселини, да не прибягвате по поредния медикамент, а да се замислите какво не може да филтрира моят черен дроб. Насладете се и ако решите наистина да продължите вашите знания, вижте в коментар обученията, които предлагаме с нашите партньори в Великобритания, за да може наистина човек да знае най-добре, защото много студенти ми питат: Валентина, ние само за храната ли ще учим? Не, вие изучавате и анатомията, и физиологията, какво се случва, как се случва, чревната флора, изцяло изключително добро и полезно, но насладете се и преценете сами.
Okay, so loving your liver. So hopefully all of you know where your liver is located. So the liver at a physical level is your second largest organ in the body, and it weighs in the adult human body between 1.2 and 1.5 kilograms. It's really heavy, and it stretches under your right rib cage all the way up across to your left. And you know, it's an immense area, and then obviously the gallbladder is located under it and actually just flaps over the front of overlaps the stomach and just about meets where your pancreas is under the left of your chest. And I think as nutritional therapists and looking at it from anatomy and, you know, any other discipline, the liver is immensely important to our health, really at absolutely every level. So what does your liver actually do? I think the main thing we associate the liver with is detoxification. And we often say, oh, we're doing a liver detox, or you'll hear a liver cleanse. But actually, the liver performs so many functions that it's its own organ with its own detoxification system built in. It's absolutely amazing. So our liver performs over 500 functions, and it's absolutely critical to our metabolism. And it manufactures over 13,000 chemicals and enzymes in the body. And just from a nutrition perspective, and I'll try and chip in as we go in, the main mineral that really helps this is magnesium. So I expect through the course and through life and hopefully practice as a nutritional therapist, you're going to hear a lot about magnesium and why people need it and need it so regularly. But these enzymes are hugely magnesium dependent, as well as many other nutrients, and we'll see that later on. And it's your liver that actually regulates the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So often we say, oh, it's my metabolism, it must be my thyroid. It's more likely to be the liver that's out of whack or not functioning optimum when our digestion isn't right, when we've got bloating, pain, fatigue, and where there's an element of ill health. So many conditions, diagnosed and non-diagnosed, can be wholly attributed in some part to a poor liver function. So your liver, you know, has a companion, the gallbladder. So your liver makes bile, and then your gallbladder stores it and squirts it into your top of your small intestine to aid the digestion of fat. So when you think about the liver, think fat. Think it makes good fat, it makes cholesterol, and it makes bile which digests fat. And think metabolism. And another known function of the liver that which you might not be so familiar with, that it actually supports the regulation of your blood sugar levels. And we're going to look at that in much more detail later on. But often you'll have cases in practice with yourselves where you're having a really good diet. Maybe you've looked at gut, maybe you've looked at fungal overgrowth, possible candida albicans in the gut. Maybe there's a condition, a hormonal condition. Maybe there's chronic fatigue or ME, and you get to the point and you say, oh, really well, or my client is really well, but they just can't balance the blood sugar levels. It's still going up and down. And that's where you look to liver, because it has a really critical role in that. So, you know, within assignments and within practice, always consider, is the liver impacting? And I've tried to include that later on, of the impact of the liver on your organs. Okay. So this just goes on and on with what the liver does. So your liver makes and breaks down your hormones. So it makes cholesterol and it breaks down testosterone and estrogen. But it was really interesting. When I was preparing for this webinar, I went and had a look through some of the research articles, and there is one that suggests that when we hit menopause, as our ovaries close down and stop producing estrogen and our adrenals take over producing it, that the liver has a little go producing some as well if we're really stuck. So hence another area to consider when you're working with perimenopausal and menopausal ladies. Actually, that liver has to be working optimally to support hormones. So the liver has a massive role with the gut. They're all in the same area and it all comes together. And what I can hopefully do with this webinar is put together that how it really integrates into the body, not that it's just a standalone organ. Because every piece of food and drink that you ingest goes first to the liver to be processed. Every medication you ingest, unless it is wholly fat-based, goes to the liver to be processed. And actually the liver activates some medications and deactivates others. So as we get deeper into that, you might know that people on heart medication or warfarin cannot take grapefruit. I don't know if you've heard that one, but that's because there's a substance in grapefruit called naringin that causes the liver to deactivate that drug. So your liver is not just for detoxification, it's for activation and deactivation of medical prescriptive drugs. We all know that it processes alcohol, hence your hangover the next morning. So it's like your filtering system, and it's got two really distinct phases. And, you know, I think it took me a good couple of years before I was able to really get the role of the phases and to integrate it. So hopefully within an hour you'll all be fab by the end of the webinar on that. So just remember that everything that's ingested, unless it's wholly fat-based, goes straight to liver, and then liver decides what to do with it, and then it sends it out into the bloodstream to go to the cells. So your liver also recycles red blood cells and also your Kupffer cells to fight infection, some of your white blood cells. So you or friends or family or your clients in the future might come back and have a low white blood cell count. And nobody may know why, but actually if you improve liver function, you will, for some people, improve their white blood cell count. So the body does manage toxins entering the body, and it's an amazing organ. And whichever way the toxin enters, the liver will deal with it. It's kind of like the security guard of your body. So if you ingest, if you breathe in, if you're using a non-organic product on your skin and there's chemical toxins, your blood, so it will go through skin, straight to blood, and then zip it around to liver to say, okay, what do we do with this? So it really is an amazing organ. It does more. So it stores nutrients as well. So it stores sugar. It's our source of stored sugar. It's our energy reservoir. It's our reserve tank in our car. It also stores fats, makes fats, deals with fats, and stores them. It also stores vitamin B12, and we've got between 5 to 7 years of B12. So I know some of you through being your tutor and marking your work are vegan, and some of you are vegetarian, and there's sometimes a concern with levels of B12 long term. But if there's liver congestion, you're less likely to lay down a good few years of store of B12, and the regulation with it will change as well. So that's really important. So your liver also stores your fat-soluble vitamins. So your vitamin A, your vitamin D, your vitamin E, and your vitamin K, and they're your fat solubles. And that'll become really more apparent later on when we look at those two phases. So remember that if you're recommending supplements in the future when you're in practice, or maybe you're already in practice, just not to go overboard with the fat solubles, because your liver will store them and then over time can become toxic. So there will be levels in there. So take vitamin D, for example. You can safely give 2,000 international units of vitamin D daily without a toxicity build-up. But if a client or you are on a much higher dose for a longer time, the liver would store it. The liver also stores zinc and iron and copper. And some of you, depending on how far through courses you are, will know that those all interact together. And it also stores magnesium. So those of you that you might know me know I have a real thing about magnesium. I didn't put my magnesium t-shirt on, but I might do. Magnesium only has a storage of 24 days in the body. And you think B12 is 5 to 7 years, magnesium is 24 days, and magnesium drives those liver enzymes. So it's really critical to get this organ functioning beautifully, let alone the cramps in legs that we associate it with. So our liver also synthesizes proteins, and it also transports using these proteins, vitamin A, iron, zinc, and copper into the bloodstream. So to utilize A, it needs to bind to a protein. To utilize zinc and iron in particular, it needs to bind to a protein to get into the bloodstream. So the liver goes, there you are, have my proteins. So if you're on a low protein diet, it's going to negatively affect the liver. So as amazing as veganism and vegetarian are, if you're not combining proteins, it will in some way gently impact liver. So like I said, almost all vitamins and minerals, and I've put almost all, because I don't know if any of you have heard of liposomal vitamins or have used those. So they're fat-based vitamins. They don't go near the liver. And that's a good way to take them when your liver is compromised. But the rest needs to be processed before they're able to use. And we'll look at the medical tests for liver, which will hopefully really help you in practice. Because you may have clients come in where they will present you with, perfectly adequate liver tests from the GP, and yet their symptoms will suggest that actually their liver could use some support. So the liver can lose up to 70% of its capability and not show any major disease. But the most amazing thing is it can regenerate itself after injury and disease. So it can fix itself to a point. It can regenerate depending on any disease that's present, and it can literally detoxify itself. Isn't it amazing? Look at that. It puts the heart into, just pale insignificance.